CBSE viewers. In today's clipping, we are going to view the revenue theory as is discussed in class 11 microeconomics. So, what we have done already is the production function and then the cost theories as part of the producer behavior theories. Today, as part of the revenue, we'll understand how firms are able to generate revenue in two cases. There are two types of markets basically, perfect market and an imperfect market. In great detail about the various kinds of markets, you would be understanding in the upcoming classes. But right now, let's just understand how in a perfect market, revenue is generated by an entrepreneur. So the word revenue, it should make great sense to an entrepreneur even as the profit maximization is going to be one of the major concerns. So, the total revenue, marginal revenue and the average revenue, they are discussed in great detail as part of perfect competition and also as part of imperfect competition. Let me just bring to your notice some features of perfect competition. Under perfect competition, the entrepreneur sells more and more and more at the same price. Let me repeat. Perfect competition is a market situation wherein the seller might be selling more and more and more at the same price. That is, at a constant price, more is sold. Right? So, how does that bring in relevance to the total revenue? Total revenue is nothing but the amount of revenue that is generated, the total revenue that is generated by a firm, even as all the output is sold in the market. Fine? Production is going to happen, some amount of output is going to be produced, and if that output is going to be sold in the market at particular value, then that would be generating the revenue and that would be the total revenue for the firm. Isn't it? Right? Now what did I tell you? In the production process, some output is going to be produced and that output is going to be sold at a particular value, and as a result of that, the revenue is going to be generated. Right? So, output into the price would make up the total revenue for any firm. And in a perfectly competitive market, price remains the same. What did I tell you? At the same price, more and more and more can be sold. Isn't it? So, when price is going to remain the same, the only option for the entrepreneur to maximize the total revenue will be to produce more output and sell more output. Yes? Yeah? So let's understand how the total revenue behaves in the perfectly competitive market. Yes? So, the units of output and then the price at which the product is going to be sold, and then the total revenue, which is going to be calculated as Q into P. Yes? And in a perfectly competitive market, I have already told you, price will remain constant. Whatever be the amount of output that is going to be sold, it will be at the same price. Yes? So, the price, let's say, it is going to remain constant. At all the levels of output, it will remain constant. So, even as the first unit of output is going to be sold, the total revenue that is going to be generated due to sale of that one particular unit of output will be Q into P, and that would be 10. And then one more unit of output is going to be sold in the market at the same price. The total revenue will be 2 into 10, and that would be 20. And then let's say 3 units are sold, the total revenue would be 30. 4 units, the total revenue will be 40, and let us say 5 units, in that case the total revenue will be 50. Yes. Now, more than the total revenue, it is going to be the additional revenue, and it is going to be the per unit revenue that the entrepreneur is going to be more bothered about, because fixing up of the price in the near future, and also to understand whether it's worthwhile to produce or not. If I produce an additional unit of output, what is the additional revenue that is going to be generated due to sale of that one particular unit of output? That would be the prime concern for any entrepreneur, isn't it? Yes. So we have to understand what is this marginal revenue. Marginal revenue is going to be the revenue that is generated out of the sale of the additional unit of output. One more unit of output, if you sell that one more unit of output in the market, the additional revenue that is going to be generated due to that additional sale is what is the marginal revenue. Yeah, this is similar to that of any other marginal concept. Now that you have done your marginal cost and then your marginal product, marginal revenue is very much a similar concept. Yes, so what is your marginal revenue in other terms? It is going to be the rate of change of the total revenue. Yes, what will it be? TRN minus 1. In case the number of units of output sold are going to increase one after the other, then the MR can be understood as the rate of change of the total revenue, or it can be calculated as TRN. I think I put up here, right? It can be understood as MR of n units can be understood as TRN minus TRN minus 1. Right? Now, that is the case when the output is going to increase one after the other. When the output is going to increase in large increments, the output sold is going to increase in large increments, then how will you calculate it? Fine. In that case, the marginal revenue can be calculated as change in the total revenue due to change in the units of output that is sold. Yes. So, the additional revenue, which is the marginal revenue, can be calculated through these two methods. And then, what about the average revenue? Average revenue is nothing but the per unit revenue. So, when I say it's a per unit revenue, then it is understood as total revenue divided by the number of units sold, or AR can be calculated as TR by Q. Fine, right? So, let's just move on to the schedule and understand the behavior of the marginal revenue and the average revenue for the given details. Yes? So, MR in this case and AR, we will have it there in the next column. The marginal revenue for the first unit. Yes? So, when there is nothing, no output sold in the market, what will be the total revenue? 0, isn't it? And then the first, nothing sold, right? So, where will the revenue be? No revenue. So, when no sale is there, no total revenue. And then the first unit is sold, second, third, fourth, they are sold at the same price, and you see that the total revenue is increasing. Okay. So, at what rate is it increasing? At what rate is it increasing? Right? So, that's what we are going to check out here through the marginal revenue. So, marginal revenue, which can be understood as TRN minus TRN minus 1, is the difference in the total revenue. So, 10 minus 0, the first unit that is going to be sold, it is going to be sold at the rate of 10. So, the MR is also going to be 10. The first unit will be the last unit also. So, the TR in that case will be equal to the MR. And then the second unit of output is going to be sold. So, 20 minus 10 will be the additional revenue generated or the marginal revenue. So, 20 minus 10, the MR will be 10 again. Fine. And then the third unit is sold at the same price, 10. And the total revenue generated is 10 into 3, that is 30. So the rate of change in the total revenue is 30 minus 20 and that will be 10 again. Okay, then one more unit of output is sold. Some more total revenue is generated. The rate of change in the total revenue is 40 minus 30. So yes, 10 again. Right? So we see that the marginal revenue is changing at a constant rate. It is changing at a constant rate. Fine? Why? That's because the price is constant, isn't it? Yeah? So let's see the average revenue. Now, average revenue is the per unit revenue. It is the per unit revenue, yes, which is TR divided by Q. Fine? So, as per this schedule, the TR divided by Q would give you 10 by 1, which is 10, and then 20 by 2, which is 10, 30 by 3, which is 10, 40 by 4, again 10, 50 by 5, that is 10. Right? So, what's happening here? The per unit revenue is also 10, the marginal revenue is also 10, and the price, that's also 10. So, in a perfectly competitive market, we can say that the price is equal to the marginal revenue and that is equal to the average revenue. Okay, fine. Now, look at this particular identity. AR is equal to TR divided by Q, right? Let me show that once more. The average revenue or the per unit revenue is understood as the TR divided by Q. Fine. Now let me just expand this total revenue. Total revenue, initially we have said, yeah, that is nothing but the total sale proceeds for the firm or the total revenue for the firm, even as all the output is going to be sold at a certain value, which is the price. The revenue that is generated is what is the total revenue. Q into P is equal to TR. So let me just expand this TR out here. It is going to be Q into P divided by Q. Yes? So what's happening here? The Q gets cancelled. So we can say that the average revenue is nothing but the price. The average revenue is nothing but the price. Fine? So this is how the marginal revenue and the average revenue can be understood in a particular market where at the same price more and more and more is sold. So the revenue generated, the total revenue generated will be increasing at a constant rate. It increases at a constant rate because the price is constant. Fine? When the price is constant in this particular market, the increase in the total revenue will happen at a constant rate. Okay? And what about the marginal revenue and the average revenue? The marginal revenue and the average revenue, they are going to be equal to that of the price. So the price is equal to the marginal revenue and that would be equal to the average revenue. In case we are to understand the total revenue, marginal revenue and the average revenue through diagrams, then how do we go about? So we can have two panels. The first panel, the revenue, the total revenue can be measured along the y-axis and along the x-axis, it could be the units of output that is going to be shown. And then in the second panel, we can show the marginal revenue and then the average revenue. Along the x-axis, the units of output can be shown. So when there is no output, then the total revenue is not generated, that is 0. So the total revenue curve can as well start from the origin. And what do we understand? Output is increasing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. As the output increases, the total revenue is also increasing 10, 20, 30. And what is the increase? It is increasing at a constant rate. Fine. So starting from the origin, the total revenue curve will rise, will show an upward slope, indicating that there is a positive relationship between the output and the total revenue. and the rate of change in the total revenue is constant, so the total revenue curve will be a linear one. Yes, an upward sloping linear curve. That is what you will have out here. So this could be the total revenue curve, indicating that it is increasing at a constant rate due to the fixity of the prices. At fixed prices, the total revenue increases at a constant rate. And there is a direct relationship between the output and the total revenue. Right? So there are some points that we can observe here. Number one, when there is no output, the total revenue is nil. At zero level of output, the total revenue is nil. That's the first observation. The second observation is there is a direct relationship between the output sold and that of the total revenue. That is, as the output increases, the total revenue also increases. That's the number two. Number three, the observation is that the total revenue is increasing at a constant rate. And why is that? That is due to the price being fixed in this particular competition. Yes, so this is the shape of the total revenue curve in a perfectly competitive market. What about the marginal revenue and the average revenue? So we understand that whatever be the level of output that is sold in the market, whatever be the level of output that is sold in the market, the MR and the AR, they remain constant. And they remain constant at the same level. At which level? Equal to that of the price. So price is equal to MR, this is equal to AR in this particular competition. So yeah, this could be the shape of the price and then the marginal revenue and then the average revenue in a perfectly competitive market, indicating at all the levels of output, whether the output is zero or whether it is some specific small amount or a very large amount, at all the levels of output, the marginal revenue, the average revenue, they remain constant. Fine? Yeah? So, this is the behavior of the total revenue, marginal revenue and the average revenue in a perfectly competitive market. Yes? Then, moving on to imperfect market. In an imperfect market, what is the behavior? Now again, let me just tell you one thing about the price. Again, in detail about the imperfect market, you will learn a lot more in the upcoming chapters. But right now, let me give your understanding just about the price. In an imperfect market, price changes, and it is only when the price falls that more can be sold. Let me repeat, only when the price falls, then the quantity sold might increase. Right? So, I want you to recollect your demand behavior. As for the law of demand, you already understood that only when the price reduces, the quantity demanded might increase as per the law of demand. Yes? So, in your imperfect market, which is more of a practical market that we see in reality, only when the price falls, more and more and more can be sold. Yes? So, we are going to inquire upon the relationship between the output and that of the total revenue, marginal revenue and the average revenue in such an imperfect market. Yes? So, let's do that. We will have the same items, the output and then the price, the total revenue, the marginal revenue and also the average revenue. Right now, what did I give to your understanding? That the output might increase, but when will the output increase? The output will increase only when the price falls. Right? So, let's start with a high level of price, let us say 10. Okay? When the price is 10, maybe 1 unit of output is going to be sold in that particular market. When the price is 10, 1 unit of output is going to be sold in that particular market. So, what about the total revenue? Total revenue again will be output sold into the price. So Q into P. So the total revenue will be 10. Yes. So when it is going to be only one product sold, the revenue that is generated by that initial sale is the total revenue, will also be the marginal revenue. The first unit or the initial unit is also the last unit. So the TR will be equal to the MR. Right? What about the average revenue? The average revenue will be TR by Q again. Yes, TR by Q. What is that? Per unit revenue, immaterial of the market, whether it's perfect market or the imperfect market. These variables, they are the same. Isn't it? The marginal revenue is still the additional revenue that is generated due to the additional unit of sale that happens. And the average revenue is the per unit revenue that is generated by the firm. Alright. So, let's understand, for the output sold to increase, the price has to go down. Right? Let's say the price falls by 1. Right? So, when the price falls by 1, let's understand maybe there is an increase in the output sold. Okay, output sold increases to 2. Fine. So in this case, 2 into 9, 18 will be the total revenue. So what is the change that is happening in the total revenue? 18 minus 10. So MR will be 8. Right? And what about the average revenue? Average revenue is TR by Q, isn't it? 18 divided by 2. So that is going to be 9. And in the first case, yeah, it would be 10 by 1 and that will be 10. Fine. And as the output sold increases to 2, in such a case, the average revenue will be 18 by 2 and that would be 9. Fine. Let's understand that price might still fall, where the price is going to still fall. Then there is a possibility of selling some more. Okay, see what's happening? Price is falling. 10, 9, 8. Look at the quantity sold. 1, 2, 3. There is an inverse relationship between the output that is sold in the market and that of the price. That is, only when the price falls, the output sold in the market is increasing. Right? So, what is the total revenue going to be? 8 into 3, that's going to be 24. Okay. Now, what is going to be the change? The change in this total revenue is 24 minus 18. So that's going to be 6. Right? Yeah. And what about the average revenue? Average revenue will be the total revenue by Q. So 24 by 3. And that is going to be 8. Okay. Now, let us understand further. Fall in the price might lead to some more sale. Right? So then, yeah. What is going to be the total revenue in such a case? The total revenue will increase to the next level, 28. Fine. So, the change in the total revenue is 28 minus 24, so that will be 4. Right? And what about the average revenue? That's going to be 28 by 4 and that is going to be 7. Yes? Then, let's move on to the next one. One more reduction in the price. So let's say that is going to be 6 and 5. So the total revenue is going to be 30 in this case. Fine. And how about this? The change in the total revenue is 30 minus 28 and the marginal revenue will be 2. Yes. What about the average revenue? 30 divided by 5 and that is going to be 6. Right? Next level. The price might fall to 5 and the quantity sold might increase to next level, that is 6. So what's going to happen here? So look at this, 6 into 5. What is happening to the total revenue? The total revenue is going to become constant now. Continuously it increases and then it becomes constant here, isn't it? So what is the change? 30 minus 30. So the change in the total revenue is nil, 0. Fine? Yeah? And then what about the average revenue? Average revenue will be 30 divided by 6 and that would be 5. Yeah? Yeah, what is happening here? What is happening? The marginal revenue, look at the behavior of the marginal revenue. It is continuously falling and then it becomes even 0. Fine? In case one more unit is going to be sold, that would be sold only when the price is going to still reduce. Right? So look at this. Maybe this would become 4 and this would become 7. Right? So 7 into 4, that would be 28. Right? So what about the total revenue in that case? The total revenue in that case is going to become 28. What do you understand here? Huh? There is a negative change here, isn't it? 28 minus 30. So MR, we see that becomes minus 2. Right? Yeah. And what about the average revenue? Average revenue also, if you understand, it is falling continuously. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5. And here, it would be 28 divided by 7. So, it would be 4. Yeah. So, over here, when the price continuously falls, in this particular market, the total revenue that is generated, it increases and then it becomes constant and then it falls. Right? Though the price continuously falls, the total revenue might not increase continuously. Yeah, you get this? Huh? Price is falling 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4. Continuously it's falling. Right? And as a result of that, the units of output sold is also increasing. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So should it not be generating more and more and more total revenue? Yeah, it doesn't happen, isn't it? Look at this third column. What do you understand here? Total revenue, yeah, till this particular level of output, it seems to be increasing, and then after that it becomes constant and maximum, and after that it falls, right? After that it falls. That is what is indicated through the behavior of marginal revenue, isn't it? Marginal revenue is continuously falling and then becomes 0 and then becomes negative. After all, what is MR? MR is the rate of change of the ER. So we see that MR is continuously falling. It becomes 0. And when MR becomes 0, the total revenue is maximum. Yes? And then when MR is negative, then the total revenue, it falls. Yeah? So can we just make some observations here? I just erase this bit and a few observations we may record it there. Fine? So in an imperfect market, what is the relationship that exists between the total revenue and the marginal revenue? As the output sold increases, the total revenue also increases. Fine? So, as output sold increases in the market, the total revenue increases. When total revenue increases, the marginal revenue is falling. Continuously it's falling. Right? That indicates the increase in the total revenue is actually happening at what rate? It is actually happening at a decreasing rate. The increase in the total revenue is happening at a decreasing rate, indicating MR is falling. Alright. Then there comes a level of sale, a particular unit of sale, wherein the total revenue becomes maximum. When the total revenue becomes maximum, the marginal revenue is equal to 0. Fine? Look at this. 30. Here again it becomes 30 and the marginal revenue is 0. Fine? Then the total revenue, it starts falling after attaining maximum. The total revenue in this particular table, it is falling and showing 28 there. What about the marginal revenue? The marginal revenue in such case, it becomes negative. Fine. So MR falls, MR becomes 0 and MR becomes negative. That's what we observe here. And while MR is showing such a behavior, simultaneously the total revenue seems to be increasing at a decreasing rate and then becomes maximum and then it starts falling. So this is the behavior in an imperfect competition that is displayed between the total revenue and the average revenue. Yes. Meanwhile, there are few more observations that we can make and understand between that of the marginal and the average revenues, right? So look at the marginal revenue 10, 8, 6, 4. Continuously it's falling, becoming 0, negative. That's what we saw there. Average revenue also falls, but then it never becomes 0. Never becomes 0. Why? How is it calculated? The total revenue divided by the number of units of output is what is the average revenue, isn't it? So, though average revenue continuously falls, there is no chance for the AR to become 0. So, AR will never become 0. Why? Now, what did we also understand in the previous situation? AR can be understood as the price. The price cannot be negative. Yeah? Price cannot be negative, isn't it? AR is nothing but the per unit revenue that is generated by the firm, or it is the price at which the product is sold in the market. The price cannot be negative. So AR cannot be 0, cannot be negative. Fine, right? In an imperfect market, definitely it is not equal to 0, right? Fine. Then AR, it is falling, and the fall in the average revenue, it is much slower than that of the fall in the MR. Fall in the AR is much lesser than fall in the MR. MR also falls, AR also falls. The fall in the average revenue is more steady and more slow, and it never becomes 0. Nor does it become negative. That's what we observe here. And one more, if you see, by 2 units, there is a change here. 10 to 8, 8 to 6, 6 to 4. Right? Look at this. Look at this. 10 to 9, 9 to 8, 8 to 7. So, it said that the MR falls doubly as faster than that of the average revenue. Let me repeat, the MR in a perfectly competitive market falls doubly as fast as that of the average revenue. Yes? Yeah? So, that is how the revenue curves, they behave in an imperfectly competitive market. So, let's understand the behavior of these curves through a diagram, right? So, what we are going to have is once more a double panel diagram. In the first panel, let's have the total revenue shown along the y-axis and the units of output measured along the x-axis. And in the second panel, let's show the marginal revenue and then the average revenue shown along the y-axis and the units of output measured along the x-axis. Right? So, the total revenue, it increases, becomes maximum and then it falls, right? Unit of output continuously increases. So, we are going to show this behavior of the total revenue, then starting from the first unit of output, the total revenue increases, attains maximum and then falls, right? So, what about the marginal revenue and the average revenue? Marginal revenue, it starts at the same point where the total revenue starts. Fine? Yeah? And then total revenue is increasing, marginal revenue is falling. Average revenue is also falling. And what about the behavior of MR and AR? We just saw that MR falls doubly as fast as your AR. So, if you plot the marginal revenue, you would be able to understand that the marginal revenue, it is there in the positive as well as in the negative quadrant. MR falls, becomes 0 and moves on to the negative quadrant. Yes? And when MR is 0, mark this, when MR is 0, we understand that the total revenue is maximum. Yes? Total revenue is maximum when the MR is equal to 0. And then when MR becomes negative, that is when the tier shows a fall. Alright? Yeah. Then what about the average revenue? Average revenue that also begins from 10 and then it falls, but the fall is much gentle. So the total revenue curve, if you plot it, it might be a much flatter curve. It might be a much flatter curve and it will lie above the marginal revenue curve. Fine, it will lie above the marginal revenue curve. This is your marginal revenue curve. Yes, it falls, becomes 0 and goes on to the negative quadrant. Even as the MR becomes 0 and negative, AR continuously falls but never becomes 0 or negative. And it will still lie in the positive quadrant. Fine. So these are some observations that we can make from the diagram. Alright. So to sum up, what have we seen? We have understood the behavior of the revenue curves, the total revenue, the average revenue and the marginal revenue in two types of markets. One is a perfectly competitive market where at the same price more and more and more is sold, and in such a market where at the same price more and more is sold, the total revenue, it increases at a constant rate. And in such a market where the price is fixed, the price is equal to the marginal revenue and that is equal to the average revenue. Okay. In an imperfect market, which is more realistic, only when the price falls, more and more can be sold. In such a market, the total revenue, it increases at a decreasing rate and then it becomes maximum and then it starts falling. That shows MR falls, becomes 0 and it could become negative. Whereas the AR, it continuously falls, never becomes 0 or negative. Right? So with that, we are done with the revenue theory. Now this is another important theory in micro to understand whether profit can be maximized or whether losses can be minimized. So in the upcoming class, we would understand the producer equilibrium theory. So we are done with the revenue theory. Hope you understood. Namaste.